What audience growth really looks like and when you should start. Hello, everyone. My name is Tessa. I'm the Director of Marketing at IdeaPros. And today I have a special guest for you, Miss Kai Alday over there at movetoceo.com, which business coach, but she's one of my favorite people in the world. And today we're talking about audience growth because this is so important to your business. If you don't have an audience, you don't have a business, really, is what it comes down to.
100%.
Right? And we had the privilege of being able to talk on this subject yesterday, and we just really thought that the IdeaPros, group, all of you entrepreneurs needed this information, and we wanted to be here to provide it to you. So, Kai, can you give us a little background on what we're going to be talking about today?
Yeah. So, today we're going to be jumping into when you think about audience growth and you're wondering, hey, when should I start this? There's two things that we really need to dive into is what does that actually look like? So what we're going to do today is we're going to look into something that a lot of people know about. It's a successful launch campaign and what the stages are. But we're also going to share from our perspective because this launch campaign is specific to a product launch, which you could say for an app launch or anything, but it is
like online business or whatever it might be.
Yeah. So we're going to do it from the perspective of a business just in overall, right? So you're still building your business, you're still building your audience, right? So
Yes.
we're going to look at it from those two lenses, and then we're going to answer the question of when. And the reason we start with what this campaign looks like is because just so that you really have an understanding of what goes in to building an audience and actually what has to happen in order for you to actually launch successfully.
Yes, because a lot of people think launch means like I launched my website and my website's live. No, that's not a launch. And then really there's so many steps and way more than I know. I told Kai about the product launch formula, which is it really helped me. I know a lot of partners from IdeaPros. I've shown you the slides of what this launch looks like, but this is by Jeff Walker, and he has a program, a whole very expensive program you can go through, but we've boiled it down into our version of those same phases because it's absolutely dead on to what you need to do in your business to launch, whether it's you've been in business for a long time and you're getting back out in the market or you're just launching for the first time. So this is 4 marketing phases. We'll put it that way.
Yeah.
Do you want to start with the first one?
Sure. So the first phase of this marketing campaign, right, which I believe this is called product to launch formula by Jeff Walker. So that's one of the marketing campaigns that we're going to go through. And then again, we'll show you how we attack it from our perspective, right? So let me just first tell you his 4 stages because I think it's funny. So the very first stage at the top is the pre-launch.
Yes, you heard it right. Pre-launch.
Yeah, exactly. The second stage is the pre-launch. Then there's the launch. Then there's the post-launch.
Yes.
That's kind of confusing, but yes.
Yes, I know. So pre-launch, this one cracks me up, but it's really important. And when you think about it, when you really boil it down, this is where you're building your audience up. So it's in the very beginning before you have anything really ready, folks. Like you don't have to have your product ready to be in this pre-launch, but there's no exchange of money in this phase. So you're not actually they're not giving you any money in this phase.
Correct. And so what this phase looks like, right? So the pre-launch, which that is really an accurate description of what it is. Like when you think in terms of a timeline, that is where it falls, right? It's in the pre-launch. We call this the learning phase, which is why there is no exchange of money because you are really just learning. So from our perspective, this is really where you're doing your muse research. This is where you're doing your inbound and outbound marketing. That's where it all starts. Okay. So phase.
Yes, to clarify, Muse is your target audience who inspires you and you are inspired by them. So if you hear us talk about that, that's just your target audience.
Yeah. And so think of it from this perspective. In this phase, what should be happening is that you should be, building your audience audience up. You should be building up your reputation. You're using the audience that's this first kind of like groundwork, the foundational audience that's coming in. You are using this audience to really learn and to use them as a sounding board for whatever that idea is that you might have in your head of what your offer is going to be down the road. And this is also where you're kind of testing the waters with them, just in terms of like, is this really my audience or not? And this is also known as the awareness phase, right? So this is where they're starting to get to know about you. You're kind of coming into their world, and you're kind of, if you already have that idea kind of sorted out of what that offer is going to be, you're starting to tease it, right? Like what it is that you are going to be doing and presenting.
And you may not be in a place where you can tease with anything yet. It's still so confidential. And we talk a lot about, confidential ideas, because a lot of the partners have apps and products that are coming to life still as, they're going through this phase, but you may just have an industry that you're going to be in. It's like the car and the horse. It was the phase of the horse before the car came around. So you could say that the disadvantages of having a horse, and you could be talking about all these other things that are the current situation without even mentioning what you do. So this pre-marketing phase is really important, because you're actually finding out what people are saying. Like, what if you said, gosh, your donkey, and they're not riding donkeys, they're riding horses. So, you've got to figure out what they're saying and what's going on in the industry.
And so that's something, we do work with IdeaPros partners, people who have apps, and they're in a stage of their development where they're afraid to talk about it because they don't want people to steal their idea. This happens actually a lot where people have that fear, and we get it. So really what Tessa is talking about is you can still talk about it and tease it, so that you are, and you have to really, in order to make sure that you are attracting the right people. So what that looks like, right, is you don't have to talk about your specific product, but people should know what industry you're in. They should know kind of the idea of what it's about. And a lot of times what you might be showing them are the benefits, right? Like, what will it be like? So, hey, you're going to be able to get from A to Z, if we're talking about the horse and the car, right? You're going to be able to get from A to Z in like half the time. You still don't know what that is.
You don't know what's going to take
to show and highlight how you're going to be changing the game in this area, right? And you're also talking to the things that maybe they're frustrated about. And this is a great time to hear their words of how they talk about their frustrations and what their desires are, because that can really feed your product or your service or app and make it even better and your messaging better.
Yeah. So those things might be questions or polls, or you're, presenting people with an idea and getting the feedback from them on those posts. It can be done in social media posts, but it can be done anywhere. It doesn't have to be on social media only.
Okay.
Beautiful.
So the second phase, right? So we just did the pre-launch, which for us is the learning phase. Now we're getting into the pre-launch. And this is usually where there is a possible exchange of money. It might be minimal. It might be $1 reservation. It might be like, if I have a course and it's typically $500, maybe this part is only going to be $100, something like that, right? It's typically a discounted amount, or just something that people can get back if they choose to, right? But this is really focused on beta testing. This is why we call this our testing phase. This is really about getting reviews, getting feedback on your product, service, and app. And a lot of people want to just skip this and just be like, hey, here's the grand opening. But the reality is most businesses, whether it's brick and mortar or online, have soft openings. And the reason is you want to have a testing ground before you're like, oh, it just crashed. So I spent all this money launching, I spent all this money on ads, I spent all this money, and boom, it failed. You never want that to be the case. So this is really kind of that group of people who they've stood by you and they love what you're going to bring. And now they get to be a part of the process of giving you better feedback. And these are your, as Tessa calls them, your early adapters, right?
I love these, and we do beta programs. In fact, I know we have a couple people who are tuning in, and usually do tune in on these shows too, that are beta testers for Move to CEO. But we learned so much that we changed the way our program was run, because we found out, hey, you know what, the length of it isn't quite right. The content needs to adjust. We need to put this one first before we do this to make it more cohesive and effective for people. So you can learn so much from doing a beta program. And from an app perspective, that is giving people access to the app before you go and promote it on the App Store. So that's just keeping the sphere of influence small and controlled. And from a product standpoint, that might be taking your prototypes or a first run, a small run, and getting them in the hands of people.
Yes.
And then making sure that you get the feedback from them in that pre-launch phase, because that is what is going to, fuel everything that you do for your launch moving forward. And I have to say, this is also when you're getting reviews. You have to have reviews before you launch. There is no reason you should go to launch without having reviews already in place, so that social proof is already there for people to know that your product or app or service is amazing. So you have to get your reviews in your pre-launch.
Yes.
Please.
And so this is everything that we just talked about. That's what this is. This is the testing phase, and getting that feedback and getting those reviews, testimonials, so that we can go into the third phase, which is the launch phase.
Finally, a lot of people are like, when am I going to launch this? So launch phase, we're actually making a public announcement. And this one is something you can do a countdown for. So you can say like a week or 2 weeks before, start teasing with, hey, you're revealing a picture on social media, or, you're giving them little pieces and getting them excited. Like, that is what you're going to do your countdown for. And you're really going to make a big deal out of it. This is, if we talked about pre-launch being a soft launch, this is the full launch. This is your grand opening. Some people say they're going to have a party, and that's their grand opening party. Whatever that is, you've already tested everything, so this is going to be a safe launch for you. This is when ads start. And you can actually run ads to learn a lot about your audience in the previous stages. We run ads all the time to test wording and to test the audience and make sure that we're talking to the right people. But this is where you're going to actually be promoting the product to sell. So this is where real money is exchanged.
Yes. And here's the thing is, we've been telling you, like, our name for this, it's exactly the same. It's the launch phase. That's what it is.
Launch and launch.
Straight out launch phase. And this is, this is the time where, yes, you were in this testing phase, and now you're using everything you learned. You're using the reviews to launch. But now you're going to launch, see who sells, right? And then you're going to go into the fourth stage. And the fourth stage is the post-launch. So really, that is the getting feedback and closing the sale. In our world, what we call this the refining and retargeting phase. This is really where you're getting your muse, your message, and your offer clarity. And what I mean by that is, we did that testing phase, right? So we had the beta, we got all this information, we used it to then launch. And then in your launch, you were testing, you're always testing. Always. I think that's what we should always know in our business, is that everything you do is testing and learning. That's like your whole 100%. Life is testing and learning. So be a lifelong learner, because it will help. And so you're learning what worked and what didn't. So who actually converted, how many sales did you make? How many people did you need in order to make those? You're getting all of the information you can. And now you're using it in this post-launch phase. Now, I want you to think of the post-launch in two different ways. One is, I have a service that I'm selling. Maybe it's a coaching program that's live and it's going to close. So what I'm getting from
time related.
Exactly. It's time related. So in my post-launch phase, or the refining and retargeting phase, I'm just taking all of that information and I'm putting it into a document. I'm asking myself the hard questions. I'm asking people, as Tessa will always tell you, you should always follow up with people who said no and people who said yes.
Both. You have to talk to your clients. You cannot just let this sit and do the automation and all that. You've got to have a conversation with your sales with the customers that you're getting. So whether they said no or they said yes, like you need to know.
And the thing is, so if you have something that closes, you are getting all that feedback, you're putting into a document, and you're making the pivots that you can that are showing up. So, pivots might be like if there was something in the messaging, any of those things, then maybe the posts that you start to create are using that information to refine your messaging, make it more powerful, and attract more people for when you're ready to launch again. Now, on the other side of that, there are, oftentimes, there are apps, and those apps, you're not going to just all of a sudden close the doors, right? You're going to always have it available. People can buy. So in that, you're going to see, okay, who showed up but didn't buy and why? And then how can I essentially close the sale? Right? Am I explaining that correctly?
Yes. Okay. Well, I mean, because just because somebody says no at that time, that does not mean no forever. And it doesn't say, they're not saying no to you, which a lot of people take it personally and they think, oh, they just don't love my product. They may not have resonated with the person that you put on the ad. You just never know. And maybe it was just not time. They didn't have money in their account from their paycheck. Who knows? So you don't ever take a no as a hard, it's just a not now. Okay. So if you've got these people, you can actually work the sale again. And so a lot of people ask me, like, well, how do I know? I don't have their contact information. They just came to the page. Well, you need to put tracking on your website so you know who these people are and you can retarget them with ads. Hands down, if you don't have tracking on your website, you need to put tracking in the chat right now and we're going to talk, because you have to know. And you also need those, heat map technology. So, do they care about what? If they came to the page and they only went down to the top slider, something's wrong. They didn't like it. We've moved things around to better convert lots of times. But the big thing is make sure that you understand what it is that is working or isn't working so that you can do that pivot, but don't change too much. Please don't change everything, your ad, your copy, the pricing. Don't change everything at once because you can't tell what worked or didn't work. So if you're pivoting, please give it some time. Try one thing, see at least I like to do a whole week, but a lot of people can't handle that long in their business time. But a week is not bad. We don't look at ads very often in a daily basis, typically because you can't really get a good feel for how they're doing. But give yourself a week, try something, see how it responds, make the pivots if you need to, but change one thing at a time.
Well, we have a question from
for sure.
And she asked, can you do tracking on landing pages?
Yes, ma'am. Yes. Google Analytics can go on any web. It's a code that you can put on just about everything. So yes, you can. And you can actually have trackable links in social media that you can actually see what the demographics are and retarget to. So yes, and that's Google Analytics, and the newest version is GA4. So I just have to say that because everyone needs to convert to it because the old one's going away very soon. So yes, if you don't have tracking, again, put tracking in the chat and I'll come find you because I can't handle when people don't know what's going on their website. Or they say, Tessa, I don't know why I'm not getting sales. Well, I can't look at it and help you if I don't see tracking.
Yeah. Information is power, or I mean, really it is. It gives you the ability to pivot. But one more thing before we move on to the second part, which everyone I'm sure is wondering, when are you going to answer the question of when I should start growing my audience? Okay, I suppose we're getting there, but I just want to give you one inspirational little story that Tessa actually shared with me. And here's the thing is, you're doing all of these things and maybe you launch and maybe it falls flat. How many times have we done that? 1,000 times. And the only time you fail is when you stop trying and you stop learning, right? So really what you should be doing is you should be relaunching. Okay. There is nothing wrong with relaunching. And the story that I was going to tell you about is that Tessa told me, who was it that
it's Airbnb, when one of the founders of Airbnb was telling his story. It's a great video and I'll link it. It's awesome because it puts into perspective how hard even he tried to get this going. But he relaunched 4 times for the business. And he basically said, if if nothing happens on a launch, you just do it again. It's like, does a tree in the woods make a sound when it falls? Well, if no one responds, just relaunch it. I know Kai and I have relaunched our business. At least, when relaunching, it just means trying this process again. Maybe you're not going all the way back to pre-launch because you know who your people are. So you don't have to go all the way back. But if you were wrong on the people that you brought in, go all the way back to pre-launch and figure out who your audience is before you try to do it again. But yeah, Airbnb 4 times. And even then they were always, down to what they had 20 credit cards that they were using. So they were in like desperate situation and they relaunched. So you can do it. And I know that this is, if you have any questions about what that would look like, of course, we have resources for you. Yeah. So we'll talk about that after we do our timeline of when you should start your audience building. Okay. So don't leave yet.
So now we're going to get to the second question. So just a review. The first question was, what does it actually look like to launch? What does it look like to grow your audience? And we had the 4 phases, right? The pre-launch, which for us is the learning phase, the pre-launch, which we called the testing phase, the launch phase as well, and then post-launch, which for us is the refining and retargeting phase. But now that you've seen all this, the reason we show you this is you can see that it's not like, okay, I'm ready to launch my product tomorrow and now here we go. Now I'm going to start pre-launch. That's really not the way that it works. It takes time. It takes time to do the pre-launch stage. It takes time to do the beta testing. It takes time to learn and figure out your launch process. All of these things take time, and that's okay. There are shortcuts. I'm not saying that, but here's the thing is people often come to us and they'll be like, okay, I want to run ads. Okay, well, who's your audience? Well, I think it's this person. Have you spoken to this person? And so it's always like this, this is how I'm going to do it. It's going to be a miracle. I'm going to spend $100 and I'm going to make $1 million. And the reality is that's just not how it works. Sometimes people get lucky. Yes. But that is not necessarily if you're really trying to make sure that your launch is successful, when should you start? Well, you just saw how long everything takes. Let us tell you right now, okay? And here is the difference. Think of Tesla, okay? Mm-hmm. Whether you like them or hate them, you know who they are. They are a brand that in your mind, you understand what they do, right? That happened from them building an audience, from them, whatever that is. But let's say now they came out with this, this driving truck.
Yep, they have a new truck.
Right. So they went to, pre-launch this, so to speak. And right, they didn't have to start at the beginning because they already knew who their audience was. Even though maybe their audience came to them and they're not truckers, they already have an established name. So their timeline is very different from somebody who is perhaps building that reputation and still in the process of building an audience. So just keep that in mind that, once you're out there and you are not just a business, but you've become a brand, then your timeline shortens, right? But when you're still in the growing phase, right? You haven't got to scale phase, but you're in the growing and building phase, then you have to allow yourself more time. And why?
A lot longer runway, please.
I say this because a lot of people will be ready to launch. They wait until everything's perfect. They're ready. They're going to put it out there. And then what happens is they get so disappointed when they launch and nobody comes. And then they're like, I failed. And the reality is not that you failed. You just give yourself time to do things in the right order. And it's never too late. You can start now. It's okay. It's not like your thing is just going to go away all of a sudden, right? So just think that through. And when we talk about this right now, I promise to God, we're going to...
She's like, I'm teasing.
Everyone's like, when? Just tell me when. Okay, so here we are. So I'm only going to go over the first 2. So we talked about the pre-launch, and you'll see exactly why I'm going over it. Now, this is typically going to happen, preferably, as soon as you first...
Actually, you know what? Don't. Tell us what you think. How much time do you think you need to do the pre-launch phase? I'm just curious. How much time before you actually hit the, that your product goes to market, if you will, before the launch? Just put in a time frame in the chat. I'm curious how long you guys think it is because we have a lot of people who are launching their businesses. And I know, what is it? What is it? Just type in. Okay, 9 months.
9 months.
Sage thinks
Okay.
9 months. Okay. Any other guesses? I just want to see if you guys said just to get a temperature gauge. There is no wrong answer.
Wow. Today would be the wrong answer if
Right.
you're trying to
Well,
launch
but
tomorrow.
Kai just
So that's
said,
the one wrong
yeah,
answer. Okay.
the one wrong answer. But you have to start. So even if you waited, 40 to 60 hours before. Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
That pre-launch.
Pre-launch.
Again, pre-launch is like building your audience, right?
Right. So
I'm
you don't have an
growing my
audience.
audience for a couple years.
Or you
Okay,
have a
Katie's
small
saying
one.
like a couple years. So all right.
Yeah.
That's good. Okay, so
So
Kai,
what is it?
it's
Drum roll.
6 months to a year, but I would say on the year side. So if you are working, oh, you want 3 to 4 months. Okay. So, and it depends on how you go about this audience growth process too. So you can make it faster.
What is your strategy? That's
Yeah,
always starts with your strategy, right?
how active are you doing this process of finding your audience? If you're only looking and like reaching out to one person a week, I'll promise you it's going to take a lot longer. But I prefer to say 6 months to a year, and I prefer on the year side because you should know your target audience so well that you actually blend in and they think you are them. Like you need to be that. And you guys have heard me talk about the Muse research and the C method. Like those are important, super important. So if you haven't done it, you need to put Muse in the chat, and I'm going to send you the worksheets about how to do that process. But yes, 6 months to a year for pre-launch. Then the next phase is, this one's interesting. So Kai,
well, actually, just a step back. So the pre-launch, what we would say is as soon as you have an idea, you should already be trying to build that audience. Why? Because it starts to refine your idea. It feeds the offer. So a lot of times we come up and we're like, hey, I have this perfect thing. And it might be perfect, but you don't know why people want it. You just think it's perfect because that's what you think. And then sometimes you go in and you're like, well, I have this perfect thing. And they're like, actually, I wouldn't want that. I like the idea, but actually I prefer it in this delivery, or this is why. And so pre-launch is really the beginning of me building an audience. Think of it that way. And so it's not just like we're don't think of this as a product or a service that I've been established. And now
you don't have to have your product or service ready.
This is
pre-launch.
I'm showing up to the scene and I don't really have an audience that knows about this offer at all. Like what I do, that's what.
Let me give you one example. And I did this with, when I moved to Tennessee, they had no offices for like co-working spaces here. And I thought, okay, I might be able to get an office, rent a bigger one, and then be able to have other people come to it. So that was my idea, was like, I'm going to have a co-working space because I need it for myself. Turns out when I ran an ad, no one cares about it out here at all because it's just not I'm like, no one hit on the ads. I couldn't get a single person who thought that co-working space was going to be a good idea. So I was able to like adjust and figure out, okay, that's not going to work, but there's people with offices. So I could have space in their office and they're not even thinking about sharing the space. So I had to pivot my idea, but the first place I started was what is considered pre-launch of like, hey, what do you even want this type of thing? Right. So,
but I think in this phase, where everyone goes wrong when we think of pre-launch is we really think about like everything needs to be perfect. We start with our brand, but really this is the phase that you're figuring out, do people want what I'm offering? Just like we said, how do they talk about it? How do they talk about their pain? How do they talk about what success looks like for them? Who really is your audience? Because sometimes you're just guessing and then you realize actually that's not who it is. This is the person that it is, right? And then, this is also where you're finding out what is really your brand? What is the vibe? What do you bring to the table? And a lot of this is through very messy marketing, right? Messy posts, messy copy, but then you start to really learn, okay, here's where I am and what I do well. And now you can pivot along with your offer. And so all of this is happening in your pre-launch of your business, right? Think of it that way, of whatever that looks like. And here's the next part, right, that Tessa was going to get into. This is the pre-launching, as we call it, the testing phase. And when
next phase, yes.
Start, Tessa? I think this surprised.
I like this one because you can start this phase whenever you have people to have gotten enough information from. So you don't have to wait forever. There isn't like a requirement, but as long as you've gotten enough information that you can make educated decisions about what you're going to be doing for your business and how it's going to launch and how they're going to react to it, then you can move into the next phase in that beta phase. So like we have enough people, now we're going to go talk to them about beta testing the app, or we're going to talk to them about being the, first people to get the prototypes or the first batch, right? So it's, you have enough and you know that they're actually picking up what you're putting down, like they are interested. And I know, Sage, you mentioned that you have like the 90,000 I think followers, 98,000 followers over on Instagram. So he's been building his audience for a long time. When he's ready to beta test his app, he's going to go to his audience and then they're going to be the first people to download it.
And here's the thing is, what does testing look like? Let's say you're still refining your offer. So maybe you don't want to beta test an actual offer yet. The testing also looks like, what am I saying that people are responding to or resonating with? What is it, and it's like, so if I have one sentence, what are the 4 different ways I can say that sentence? And what is the way that people are like, oh my gosh, that's so me. I'm raising my hand. I'm sharing this post, right? That's also testing, is you're testing your messaging. You're testing your ideas, right? Even if you can't share it specifically, you might be talking about, well, wouldn't it be amazing if I could do this? And then somebody might say, well, actually, I think you can do that with this, right? Now you're like, okay.
Sadly, I know that happens. Right? So I don't get too discouraged if you find out there's more competitors in your industry than you thought as you go through this process. I love that what Odin mentioned something. Do you want me to bring that one up?
Yeah, go for it.
Odin was talking about how he did his pre-launch for one of his services. So he did a survey, and I know Odin told me about this survey as soon as he had done it, and he asked questions in a local mall, and he just stood there for a few weeks stopping people and asking them. I love it. And he ended up getting names and numbers and permission from the local. Of course, you have to talk to your local mall and make sure that they're okay with you standing there and for getting some survey stuff. But good job, Odin. And I know that piece of just being out there and talking about your product, like asking questions, it's really intimidating, but you have to do it. If you don't do it, you're never going to know. So
now let us answer the question of when. Tessa, when is the right time? Now, yes.
Right now. Okay, we had a workshop and we had someone we were talking about audience growth actually and growing your business. And he said, I wish I had known this because I'm launching in like a month. I wish I had known this. So now you guys can't even say that you weren't told to go start now. And if you need help on how to do this, Kai and I, as you all know, we have moved to CEO, and that's not just for ladies now. So just saying, anyone can attend the workshop. So we have a workshop I'll put in the chat for you. It's just movetoceo.com/SMS, and it's the social media survival workshop. But we included our audience growth bonus in it. So you'll get our audience growth bonus and our giant worksheet, or a little cheat sheet here, which is how to do all your content. But besides having content, being able to do better at that, just the audience growth piece, if you want to know how to do it, come be with us in the workshop. It's in July and it's worth it. Every bit of it.
And here's the thing. I think people need to understand content. Content isn't just like, hey, I'm showing up on social media. Content is your emails. It's your ads. It's everything. It's how you create powerful messaging. That is content. How do you attract people? How do you get them through the nurture? Like, how do you make them follow you on this journey that they want to follow you, and you're not like forcing them, right? That is all about content. So I don't want you to think, okay, we're going to come and we're going to learn social media, which if
it's
you know,
not just social media. No. Yeah.
So
no, between Kai and I, this is social media for everyday people who don't love social media too, because we want the fastest way to do the least amount of like content generation. So it's how can you be efficient and do messaging that's really going to be effective and get that audience built up. But we don't just say, here, go build your content. We say, here's how to build your audience. This is how you get that network together, because it's easy for us to say, go get your audience. And it's really not as easy to do. Physically go out and do.
Yeah, exactly. We would love for you to come. We're going to talk about your content. We're going to lay down what is your actual audience growth strategy for you as an individual, for your business, not just like, hey, here's one size fits all, but this is for you. And then how do you actually grow that audience and what does it take? And so we would love to see you guys there. And I just want to thank you guys for having me again.
Oh,
On
thanks so much, Kai.
IdeaPros.
Well, I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. And she's so good about like, hey, Kai, can you come on and do this with me? And she's like, no problem. So thank you. I hope this was super helpful. And you can, again, just let us know if you guys have any questions. Oh, and Kai, Kelly's in the chat and she's saying thank you. And Kelly came to one of our workshops too. And I hope that Kelly and Sean will come for just do it again. Come back and practice more on the social media because it's going to be, the more you do it, the better it's going to get. So thank you. Oh yes, Shay, thank you so much. And Kai, I will let you go, but I appreciate you being here again. We just, we want to be here for you. So entrepreneurs, it doesn't matter what stage you're in your business, we want to help. And that's IdeaPros and Move to CEO. Beautiful. Well, thank you, Kai. I'm going to go ahead and take a second to say hello to everyone over here. I know we had Katie and Sage and hey, Jared, good to have you on today too. I love that you guys show up every single time. Kyle and Martin, they're going to be at our workshop too. We love to be able to get everyone that needs the help into the program. I know we have, Sage, so you gained a staggering 98 followers today. Oh, you're 88,000. You're up to 98,000, like Kai said. That's beautiful. Sage right now on Instagram. So go check it out because he's really good at teasing what it is. And he can actually tease a little bit more. I think you're getting close, Sage, so you can tell a little bit more about what it is that you're going to be doing or target businesses a little bit more. I'll just say that. I think you could go into a pre-launch because you've definitely got the audience. And that pre-launch could just be a little bit longer. And Odin, thank you so much for being here. And Odin's he's my sales and business coach that I use, marketing coach that I've used in the past. So he's amazing. He's a great resource to have. And Katie, I think we have some resources that we were going to give to you too. I saw that you mentioned about tracking, and so did Eva. So I will send the tracking information to you guys so you can put that, just sign up. It's free on Google Analytics, and it's a little bit of code that we can help you put on, or you can put on yourself because it's really quite easy. But then you can have all those tracking information at your fingertips. And then Mark Morris over there at Fallout for Support, he has a website. It's fallout4support.com. You can check out his product too. It's in the process. Well, thank you guys. Oh, and John West, you want the muse? No problem. I'll get that over to you. If you guys have any topics that you want us to cover that we haven't covered lately, let us know in the chats. If there's something that you're having, if it's ads, if it's whatever it is that's got you stumped in your business, let us know. We do the topics and we get the experts on next week. Next week, I have my PR gal. And so Brooke is amazing. She's an awesome PR specialist. And I want to say she does more of the TV side, like interviews that would be on TV, but she also does, press releases and things like that. But she gets people on shows, and she's going to tell us about getting the word out about our businesses. So next Friday, that's Brooke Young, and we'll be talking all about PR. So we'll see you guys next week, and happy 4th of July. Thank you so much. We'll see you all. Have a good one. Bye.